So in this video, I'm going to show you another mobile home deal that our company flipped, and I think it might be helpful for you to see how much money we're making and then ultimately how much work we're putting into these properties. I think you'll find that it's a lot less work than maybe you're putting into fixing and flipping traditional real estate. So let me start by showing you what the property looked like after we were done with the renovation, and then let me show you what the financials look like so you can see how much money we made. So here's a list of the properties that our company sold, and here's the property that we're going to take a look at on this video. So this property was located in a family community. It was a double wide 28 by 56, so call it 1,300 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and this one actually needed a lot of work. On the outside, let me give you a rundown. We had to redo the roof. We had to paint the entire exterior. We had to put new skirting around the entire exterior. We had to fix the decks. We had to paint the shed. So there was a lot of miscellaneous things that we had to do. But notice we did not do any landscaping on this property because this particular community did not require it. Some communities do require it, and so you need to know, when you're making an acquisition, what are the rules of that community, because you need to be able to factor that in when you're doing an acquisition. So here's what it looked like inside when we were done. If you watch any of my other videos, you'll constantly hear me state we try not to replace the cabinets and countertops. On this particular property, the cabinets and countertops were so bad, we actually did have to redo the countertops and we had to replace a section of cabinets. But ultimately, we did keep the original cabinets, but we did have to replace a little section. But this is what it looked like when we were done. We put some tile on the countertops and we put in brand new flooring, so linoleum and carpet. We painted the walls, we painted the ceiling. We did do some updating of light fixtures, and this is what it looked like when we were done. We did have to put a decent amount of money into this property because it needed a lot of work, but this is what the end product looked like. So I think you got an idea. We didn't come through and make it, super fancy, but we did have to sink a little bit of money into making it look presentable. Now, we have a standard that we go by, which is, we call it a gold, silver, or copper standard. What does that mean? Ultimately, it means if you're selling a home at a higher price in a nicer neighborhood, usually you're gonna have to do a gold standard. If you're selling a home in a not so nice area at a lower price point, maybe you can do a copper standard. Now, does that mean you can cut corners and do shoddy work? Absolutely not. It just means you're not gonna sink as much money into the property because just the price point that you're selling it at, it wouldn't make sense to do that, right? And then of course, silver is somewhere in the middle. So this was kind of like a silver home, and you could see it turned out pretty good. So now that you've seen what the end result looked like on the renovation, let's take a look at the financials. So if this is your first time seeing this financial chart, let me walk you through it. The first line shows our acquisition costs. That's how much we bought the property for. And as you can see, we paid just a little over $6,000 for this property. Now, I'm gonna round up and down to keep my math simple on this video. And if you look at the second line, you'll see that we invested $53,000 into the renovation, holding costs, and everything related to getting the property ready to sell. Now, if you look at other videos that I make with projects, that's higher than what we generally invest into a mobile home. But like I shared with you, there was a lot of work we had to do on this particular property. So on the third line, it shows our total investment, which came out to a little over $59,000. The fourth line shows how much we ultimately sold it for. And as you can see, we sold this one for just under $90,000. So after closing costs, on the sixth line, you can see we made a profit of just over $30,000. And on the seventh line, you can see we made a 51% return on investment. Now for us, I'll let you know, that return on investment is actually a little bit lower than the average that we've been doing year over year. However, the profit was right about average, a little above our average on the profit. So this was a good standard deal, and we were pretty happy with this. How long did it take? 149 days. Let me ask you, is 149 days a pretty good timeline for a flip? For us, the answer is yes. If we can get a property flipped in 3 to 4 months, we think we did a pretty darn good job. So in a nutshell, we invested around $60,000. We made a profit of around $30,000, and we did it in around 149 days. Now, if you're curious on how you can do this in your local market, what should you do? One of the first things that we recommend doing is figuring out where your local mobile home communities are located. The next thing we recommend doing is figure out what are the average prices for mobile homes selling for in your local area, so you know what price points you should be acquiring these properties for. And then lastly, research your competition. Some markets are already saturated with a lot of competition, but most markets are pretty wide open. So to help you do this, we created a free online workshop. If you want to check out that workshop, you can go on our website. It's mobilehomefranchise.com. On that website, we give you all the tools to show you exactly how to find where the mobile home communities are located, what the average prices are selling for in your market, and also who your competition is. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I love hearing from people who are watching these videos. I'll see you on the next one.